Greetings, everybody, and welcome to the Armourer. My name is Victor, as always, joined by Blue.
Hello.
And we are looking at the highlights of the Flesh and Blood news for the past week. Obviously, we have an announcement for our next Pro Tour that's going to happen in LA. Obviously, what they'll do is they will keep on the tradition, having one in the Americas and one in Europe so far. And I think that going forward, we might see another one somewhere in, I don't know, Australia or probably somewhere in Asia. But as it is, Pro Tour number 3 is happening in LA.
Yeah, I also think that in the future maybe they will make a Pro Tour somewhere in Asia. Even though I'm totally fine with them just going America, Europe.
That means we can attend at least 50% of the tournament.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's not impossible to attend LA. It just costs way too much money.
It is costly, and I mean, obviously, it's a bit more struggle to get to the States overseas than just travel somewhere close for us in Europe. Obviously, it's close for all the American players, so yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So Pro Tour is here, but there's something that's gone, and that's Draft Fab.
Yep.
Very sad.
Yeah, this is a little bit late. I guess we're coming to the news. But yeah, I believe LSS has shut down like DMC8 Draft Fab, which to me sounds pretty logical, right? They have always been talking about how they want to sell Draft as a product, and they're working hard on like making Draft more and more playable, which in my opinion they have been achieving. Right? In my opinion, like every new set is better.
Yeah, and they just announced that there will be more and more draftable sets coming throughout the year and less of the supplementary sets. So they are obviously looking into developing the limited part of the game, which is nice because myself as a limited player, I would always enjoy that. But a lot of people in the community were very unhappy about the site shutting down.
I can definitely sympathize with that because there's a lot of people that cannot gather enough people to fire off like 8-person drafts, or even if they can, they cannot do it like regularly enough in order to actually put in good enough practice for like these big tournaments like Worlds and Pro Tours and so on, that we know LSS is going to like push draft as like a staple in those tournaments.
Yeah, but come to think about this, the number of 6-man draft and 5-man draft that I've done just to play the format. I mean, there's always a way, and it's always better to play it in person, because at the end of the day, that's what Flesh and Blood's meant for. Just play it in flesh and blood, not online.
Yeah, that's definitely true. But then again, I feel like in these situations where like laws are involved, I believe there's always the option of like someone just hosting a draft fab like service in a region where LSS cannot really shut it down. I believe something like this has happened in like the Yu-Gi-Oh space before, but yeah, like I'm not opposed to have services like Draft Fab, but then at the same time, I absolutely get why LSS would want to shut such a project down.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's the company's decision. If they decided that way, let it be.
Yeah.
Moving onwards to some fantastic promos. I love the art on this one. I mean, it's very flavorful, and it might turn out to be playable as well.
Well, I'm not sure if it's going to be playable, but it can definitely synergize with Vincent currently. Maybe you need to build your deck a little bit differently in order to increase the hit chance of these Jack-O' Lanterns, but potentially them giving you a card in your banish zone that hopefully has like rune gate and giving you a rune chant can be strong. It feels a little bit inconsistent, but yeah, I guess we'll see, right? Like at the end of the day, this is a holiday card.
Let's not forget the shitty Christmas present and the what was that, a holiday festive bubble or whatever.
Yeah, it's kind of in that vein. It seems a little bit more playable than those, but still. One kind of like gripe I have with this is that unlike the previous holiday cards that you mentioned, this one is not just given in an armory. I believe this one is given for purchasing product.
It is a buy a box promo, yeah.
It should be like, I believe from the 28th of October onwards, you should be able to receive one of each for buying a box. So that's like a little bit more exclusive.
And it is limited. It is limited to 3 per day. So if you wanna get a playset of these, you need to buy 4 boxes in 4 separate days.
Yeah, you have to do that. But like the limit is obviously in place so that everyone can get their hands on like at least a few. Else you can just buy all the boxes with like all the promos and just leave.
Yeah, manipulate the market.
Yeah, I'm not sure this is going to be like very wanted card, but anyway. Moving on.
Yeah, new set. We're quite late to the party for this one because it's been announced. It's been announced like a week ago.
Yeah, I guess.
But it will be a heavy hit. I love the theme. Looking at it, everyone's speculating it will be brutish.
Yeah, it definitely looks brutish, and it's right on the mark of like my speculations as well. When we were talking about like the brute cards that are pushing this arena team, like the last 2 brute cards that we got were both with like orcish people inside of an arena, and I guess we turned out right.
I was gonna say, hands down, this looks like Orgrimmar.
Yeah.
Changed my mind.
Yeah, it looks like an arena inside of it, definitely.
Yeah,
it's a little bit interesting actually, because like the big bones and like the reddishness here definitely looks like Orgrimmar, but like the structures themselves feel a lot more like elaborate, right? And we can see human soldiers on the sides.
Yeah, well, it looks Roman. Definitely looks like a model of a Colosseum. But the thing is that I guess purposefully they left all the banners blank, so there's no way for us to see if they're like any sort of particular factions.
Yeah, it may be something totally new, right? Something we haven't seen, right? It can be something akin to Everfest, right? Because Everfest is just this giant circus in a way that's just roaming the land. And this can be something like that, where it's just a location inside the world. It's just a big arena and that's it, right? It may not be affiliated with any of the lore countries, but I guess we'll see. It definitely looks brutish. A lot of people are speculating that the 3 classes we're getting are probably going to be Brute, Warrior, and Guardian. Definitely seems like the classes that fit the best this team.
Yeah, it definitely does. But if you look at the entrance, I don't know how far you can zoom, but there are like a number of 7 normal sized people or humanoids, whatever, and behind them there are 2, what I could say, giants or whatever. So we might look into like new classes or probably new, I don't know, NPCs if we're finally getting to that point where we will play PvE at some point with this game.
Yeah, I feel like PvE is probably going to be next year. I feel like it's probably too early for PvE yet, and I also feel like the moment they introduce PvE, they're going to make like a big deal out of it, right? They won't just stealthily release PV. But yeah, I don't know. I'm also not too sure on new classes. But LSS is definitely known for just having surprises in every set and just like changing the formula every time. That's like the most consistent thing about it.
Pretty much, that's why this is the game that we love and enjoy.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I can't wait to be surprised by something that I did not anticipate, I guess.
Perfect. Which leaves us with what the calling in Taipei.
Yeah, the calling in Taipei, like the biggest event during this weekend. And congratulations to Justin, who won with Azalea. And I guess the meme is over. Azalea did win a tournament.
That's a first.
Yeah.
Azalea has a tournament on her belt so far, and surprisingly, Azalea won against Dromai, which is considered one of the top tier decks at the moment.
Yeah, as well as like one of the worst matchups for Azalea, and her pulling through is very nice to see, right? Like it's the underdog story. It's also interesting that we see Reiner in the top 8 as well, which is like another surprise in my opinion.
To be honest, I'm happy to see Uzuri in top 8 as well, and obviously in top 4, but then again, the match against Dromai is a nightmare for Uzuri.
Yeah, definitely is. It was a very interesting calling. We saw like a lot of people were complaining about the quality of the stream, which yeah, I guess it could have been better. But the games themselves felt like very interesting. Like the Justin versus Nick Butcher final was incredibly tight, right? They were both down to like single digits at the end, and Justin was like down to 1 HP, I believe, the turn he won. We also, I believe, maybe saw the same Reiner just destroy a Dromai on stream and kill them with the defense reaction. That was fun. We saw Riptide do incredibly well, right? He was like 4-1 or something like this around 5. We also saw Arachne fatigue a Dromai, which is also something that we haven't really seen.
News. That's definitely news.
That's definitely news. And like looking at more of the stats and more of the things that happened during the calling, we have a draft battle hardened that was won by Lee, and he won it on Max. And as we can see, kind of like the predicted thing of like no one's drafting Dash, and Dash has like a very tough time converting. And the field is mostly Teku Vessen. And I feel like maybe with time this is going to change. Because in my opinion, as easy as Teku Vessen is to build, there's a lot of cards in the set that give you kind of like answers to the fatigue strategy and just to Teku Vessen as a whole. And I think we see that, right? We see like this Max in top 8 win over Teku Vessen, and obviously we see Lee beat like a few Teku Vessens on his way to the top.
So there's a hint there. Max is pretty draftable.
Yeah, I mean he definitely is. I got to draft and play sealed with Max, and in both cases I had quite a few cards to allow me to beat fatigue, right? Like in my sealed pool I pulled that majestic evil that shuffles attacks from your banish zone back into your deck, and it's quite easy to use that with like 2 hyperdrivers on the field, essentially giving you like 6 of your red cards back into the deck.
Yeah, that sounds powerful.
Yeah, and in draft, I had a very good setup where I use the item that gives overpower to all of my attacks. Then I use the item that gives on-hit effect return to the bottom of the deck to all of my attacks. And then I had like 3 attacks that all had text of this cannot be blocked by equipment. So like all of these just I got to hit Teku Vessel with all of these, and they just all recycled back on the bottom of the deck. And that was a pretty devastating turn. So I definitely think there's enough tools to beat fatigue in this set. So I'm expecting to kind of like see this Teku Vessel dominance drop a little bit with time.
Perfect. Well, obviously you had a good time.
Yeah. I mean,
right, and there was also a commoner event, I think.
Yeah, commoner event, 1x5. I guess, as far as I know, Stubby Hammers is allowed in.
Yes, it is.
And here we see for the Battle Hardened, the stats are 52% of the field was Teku Vesen, 39% of the field was Max, and only 9% was on Dash.
Yeah, again, showing that when it comes to limited play, Dash is a bit more difficult.
Yeah, I guess I feel like you need a couple of grenades in order to make Dash good. And maybe that's just too hard to do in draft, right? Like, especially if someone else took a grenade to play in like their max deck or something. And I think lastly, we have the conversion rate for the calling for the CC. We have kind of the expected 40% conversion for Lexi.
Well, yeah, that will be that will come to an end soon. So obviously, as we now know, Lexi will not appear in the World Tournament because she would definitely need the 2 or 3 wins throughout the ProQuest season that she needs to LL.
Yeah, like she won a few of the previous kind of big tournaments that we had before the ProQuest season starts. And the ProQuest season, as far as we know, was set to have like 300 ProQuests or something like this, and each of them giving like 4 points because they increased that. It's definitely going to be a very statistical anomaly if she does not get the Living Legend points required.
Only if the entire field decides to sabotage her going into LL and nobody plays Lexi, which I doubt.
Yeah, I also definitely doubt that. Interesting thing is that Dromai is actually having only a 22% convergence rate. And only 1 Dromai in top 8. That's.
I guess this will change once the Lexis are gone.
I mean, the thing is that once the Lexis are gone, there's going to be a lot less things stopping the Katsus and the Fais.
Apart from like... Icelander, which is the other odd card, do you think Icelander will manage to LL prior to Worlds or not?
I hope she does, but with like with stats like this, it's going to be relatively unlikely, right? Not a lot of people are bringing it to the tournaments. She does not have like an amazing conversion rate. She's not putting way too many people in top 8, right? Like we usually have like 1 Icelander in top 8, kind of like the same as Dromai, but like Dromai has like 3 times the representation in those tournaments, so it's like a lot more likely for her to do that.
Well, hands down, Dromai is the easier deck to play compared to Icelander. I'm not saying it's an easy deck, but it's definitely easier than Icelander.
Yeah, that's definitely possible, and like you still have to keep in mind that like Lexi and Dromai feel like bad matchups for Icelander, so it's kind of like an uphill battle there, even if you particularly feel okay against them. So yeah, my expectations are that Icelander is not going to LM, and um, I feel like I expected Dromai to do better because of all the hype around the new tome that we got in the new set from Dromai. A lot of people were talking about how pushed and amazing that tome is, and people started playing the Royal Helm in order to abuse the tome.
Yeah, but that cuts a bit of armor out of the inventory.
Yeah, definitely cut some armor, cut some block cards as well because the tome does not block. I guess we'll see, right? It definitely has its pluses, and judging on a singular tournament is definitely not how statistics work. Yeah, I guess we'll see. But that's about it. Everything else seems kind of like in order. We have the occasional Kano, we have the Riptide that we talked about. He did like very
We had
well.
a couple of Rhinos, we got 2 Boltons.
Yeah, it's very healthy in my opinion. Kind of day 2 conversion.
Apart from the Lexis, yeah.
Yeah, but the Lexis is definitely.
Yeah, that's a closed chapter in the history.
Yeah, we know that Lex is the best deck, but even then, like when we compare Lexi to the previous best decks we have had, she's definitely the worst best deck so far, right? Only
Yeah,
3
she's not
copies in top 8.
not as oppressive
Yeah,
as what was that? Prism, Chain, Starvo, not to mention.
yeah, Briar in the early days, right?
Cheerios Briar, yeah, I still remember that final we had.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess that's it. That's the news.
Great. So that being said, thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you at the next one.
Bye bye.